You are about to watch the Dashboard Showcase and Makeover, where we will review Power BI dashboards sent by our members, celebrate them, and also provide some gentle feedback that can help take these dashboards to the next level. As part of the feedback, you will also hear us discuss the core visualization principles that everyone should know. Now, there are chapters built into this video. You can use that to jump to a specific section. This is a recording of our live event. To learn more and join our next live event, go to talkpowerbi.com. Last thing I'll say is that this event is about a lot more than just dashboards. This is about telling your story. Because the truth is, in this day and age, you can't just do good work and hope to succeed. You gotta do good work and tell great stories. You gotta tell others about your work within your company and outside. The more people know about your work, the more doors and opportunities will open up for you. Do good work, tell great stories. Enjoy the rest of this video.
We're not here for meditating. We did that, but we're here for Dashboard Showcase and Makeover. Now, why are we doing this? We're doing this because I believe in this. I believe that in this day and age, you can't just do good work and hope to succeed. Maybe in my dad's age, maybe not even in his age, right? But and I run into people who's like, oh, I let my work speak for itself. And I'm like, yeah, how well has that worked out for you? Most people whom I've heard say this, it just hasn't worked out that great because it doesn't work. I don't think it works in this day and age. You got to do good work, but you got to tell great stories. You got to be able to tell others about the awesome work you've done. Think about all the people you look up to in your industry. I mean, if you think about it, most of them, they're just telling stories about the work, right? I mean, they're blogging, they're in YouTube, they're doing conferences, all this stuff, right? And of course, when I say this, there are a lot of objections in people. It's like, for one, it's like, oh, Avi, my data is sensitive. Well, yeah, so is everybody else's. But they're out there blogging, YouTubing, speaking on conferences, right? So there is a way and you can find it, right? Because again, this is what's going to elevate your career. This is what's going to get you to that breakthrough success. Those are the times we're in. So Dashboard Showcase, we want it to be a platform, a stepping stone, a safe space where you can come in and just try it out. Even if you're really scared, even if your knees are knocking, like, oh my God, this is scary, just do it. We're going to be nice to you. Nobody's going to say bad things. We're going to cheer for you. And yeah, hey, we may give you some constructive feedback, right? We may say how to take your game to the next level. But the key thing is you get to tell your story, you get to put it out there. And then, of course, the more you do it, the stronger, more powerful it's going to become. And it's going to help you in job interviews. Well, if you go the consultant path and you're talking to prospective clients or existing clients, it's going to help you with that. So it's a really powerful thing. It's going to help you in a long way. And again, not just job interviews. And think about the one-on-one meetings with your boss. Think about the team meetings with your group. I mean, the more you present yourself, and of course, the annual performance review. So we want to start that snowball. And we feel that can start here. So this is the safe space for you guys to get together and tell your story. So that's the premise. And we have some amazing submissions today. Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, we're going to see, and you be the judge. But certainly, I want to applaud them for the courage. Praveen is here. He sent a dashboard. So let's see. So folks, if you sent in your dashboard, then, so Praveen, I got you. And we also had Emily, Naveen. So some of them were submitted earlier, so they may not be here. Naveen, Matthias, Gabriel, and Oba. So I see Praveen. If any of the other members are here, Emily, Naveen, Matthias, Gabriel, Oba, just put that in the chat. But I'm thinking that's a sign. Okay, Emily, and Praveen are here. Awesome, great. So let's do this. Hold on, guys. I'm going to find this. Ooh, yay, like this. Okay, let's do Emily and Praveen. And here we go. Looks like it's going to be Emily. All right. Yay. All right. So Emily it is. So let's start there. Praveen, we'll take you next. And let me pull up. So Emily sends this in, and initially it said COVID-19 dashboard. But what she said is that they're using this to make decisions around when to come back to office. Now that's super interesting to me, because I know um, a lot of companies are kind of working with the same decision. So first of all, we want to celebrate Emily and her courage to do this. You know, it's not always easy. It's not easy for everybody. And yeah, it just takes a little bit of courage and of course a little bit of work to do this, to tell your part of the story. But guys, there's a difference between working in your job versus working on your career, right? And we're so focused on doing our jobs, we forget about the career. And so yeah, so kudos to Emily for that. And again, I encourage, use that as inspiration, guys. Use this whole session as inspiration. I was like, yep, if they can do it, I can do it too. Cool. So let's start here. Oh, by the way, a few things here. So earlier, I ran these sessions kind of. I don't have a structure. So like how to do an audit. But since then, we have updated the visualization module, and I recorded the whole thing recently. Let me find the right slides. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, yeah, this is it. So those who are in our program, in our Learn Power BI program, oops, not this window. Where is it? Here we go. Those who are in the Learn Power BI program, the PowerPoint slides you're seeing, they're just the material for the visualization module. So you can always go through that, and it talks about all of this. Basically, what we're doing here is a dashboard audit. And of course, you know, the lessons here walk you step by step. You can see the pretty detailed videos, and there's some bonus videos and all that stuff. So all of that is inside your course, right? All of that is there. Let me move to something interesting. And that's what I'm basing this on. And yep, these are the steps we're going to take. First impression, first focus, flow, selection of elements, pixel economy, aesthetics. Even if you're not part of the program, as you see me go through this, it's going to, well, at least you'll get the idea, right? And of course, the course goes in more detail. Now, of course, if you are interested in a program, then you can just go to our site, learnpowerbi.com, and there's all information there. So here, yeah, just click on training, and that has information on joining the program if you're interested. Cool. So let's do this. So I'm going to put this on the side. First impression, first focus, flow. I'm going to put this on my other screen, and then let's look at the dashboard. And I know there are two, so I don't know which one to start with. Frankly, I'm liking this one a little bit more. So let's start here. Perfect. Oops, wrong screen. Let's try again. All right, guys, this is looking good. Space occupancy demo, great. Okay, so the first thing on my list is the first impression. And I know it's a little bit subjective, but once you see enough, I think it looks attractive to me. I mean, yeah, I think visually, I would say first impression, I like it, right? Okay, so, and then we're going to do the next one, which is first focus. So for this, you can also call this a squint test. So I just squint my eyes so I can't see really well and see what's the first thing that jumps at me. And again, you can try the same thing, and sometimes you may get different results. But for me, the first thing that jumped out was this banner up top. Now, of course, why? And of course, that's what we go into our visualization module inside our course. It is this position is really important. The top part is really important visually because we usually scan from this way, right? Because that's how we read. So top and top left is really important. So it's in a primary position, and I think the color is quite bold as well. It's not as garish, but it's, bold color. So that really stands out. So that was the first focus for me. And I'll say the second thing that kind of got my focus was this map. And it is in a good position. So again, top left is generally more important than certainly bottom right, because that's the way we visually scan. And of course, the size is pretty big as well. So that was my first focus. Now, of course, so guys, a little bit about what I teach in the course. Of course, those who are in the program already know it. But the premise behind this is that most dashboards and most visualization is done by accident. I mean, because these people just haven't studied, frankly, nobody told them that, yeah, hey, you need to study this stuff and not just put things together. And I was the same way, right? I mean, I was in Excel and just put stuff together. But once I understood, so I make a joke in there. It's like, imagine if buildings were built by people who had never studied architecture. That would be a disaster, right? But visualizations are often built that way. And that's okay. And the good news is that it's really easy to fix once you understand some of these core principles. Okay, so let's keep working through our list. And let me go back to my checklist again. So we did the first impression, first focus. Let's do the flow. How is the dashboard flowing? And a lot of that is based on white space. White space, as I talk about in the course, is one of the most powerful elements in building a dashboard, right? Yep, having nothing there. So how does this flow? I'll say that. So generally, generally our eyes scan this way. But you can change that. And that's what gives you the power as a visualization architect, right? So you can design that flow by kind of controlling that when you don't want people to scan this way and so forth. So generally we scan this way. So I'll certainly say that I would scan this first. And then, so of course you can see Emily has used visual elements, right? So since her background is not white, but I would call that white space, right? So that she has basically a border around this thing, right? So again, since her background is not white, the colors are flipped. The white thing is creating a border, is creating a fill and a border. So clearly she wants people to take this in separately. So that's the flow. And then go on to these other elements. So if I was scanning it, I would look at the top and then I would look at this because it's visually separate. And then I'll look here and then I'll look there, right? So that's the flow. And again, it's not about right or wrong necessarily. It's about, is it by design or is it by accident, right? Was it thought out? And again, guys, I mean, I'll admit most of the dashboards that I built in my career were not thought out just because I had never learned these concepts. But once I did, you realize that that's far more effective, right? So if that's how Emily designed, if that's how Emily wanted people to consume it, then A1. If not, hey, here's a chance to, kind of focus and do something, think about it, right? I mean, so yeah, okay, wow. So I think that is the flow. And let's talk about, so let's pause here for a little bit, I feel. I felt there was something there in the flow. Yeah, so generally, I talk about the power pattern inside the course, which is I like starting with high level numbers up top. And maybe let me pull up the dashboard, see if I can pull up the dashboard for you guys. I'll pull that up on the side and we'll keep going here. Okay, so that you can see that example. Now I'm waiting for it. Okay, so generally, I like having the power pattern is the high level numbers up here. And of course, it's all by design. It's up here because that's often the most important spot, right? On your real estate, on your screen real estate. And then I like showing some breakdowns and some trends and then a little bit of detail. So let's, I think my example is almost up. So just give me 1 second. All right, guys, Power BI loading. I just want to show you an example before we proceed. Where is my chat window though? I did want to try. Okay, Robert, I'm just going to promote your panelist just so you can prompt me if something needs my attention. Yeah, so Jeff has a good question. If you move high-level numbers up to the top, where will you move the slicers? Cool. So let's go in here. So this is what my example looks like. And let's get rid of this guy. So you can see high-level numbers at the top, and then some breakdowns and trends, and then a little bit of detail. Not too much detail. I know, coming from Excel, I would fill this space with like tables and tables. It would pretty much look like an Excel sheet, but different. It's okay, but there's something better waiting for you. Oh, Tomas is sharing something awesome. So, yep, overview first, zoom and filter, then details on demand. Yeah, I'm not sure about the filter or the slicers. So let's talk about that. So okay, so by the way, we often go through these 6 steps in an iterative manner. I go through all of it, and I'm like thinking about should I go through all of it and then kind of come back? Let's do that. So so we talked about the flow. Let's not for now. I'm gonna kind of like hold my feedback for a bit, and then just move through the elements, observe them, and then come back. I think that's a good approach anyway. So let's think about the selection of elements. So here. Now, maps are probably the most abused ones or misused ones in Power BI. I have nothing against maps, but maps have a specific purpose. They work in a specific setting, but they're often not used in that setting, and often you can have other visuals which are more effective. For this one, I'm leaning towards. By the way, the next item on our thing is pixel economy, which is like how effectively and are we communicating data. And that's one reason why maps are misused, because they're often not the most effective way. So think about the pixels that this is taking, the number of pixels and the color of pixels. Man, this is taking a lot of color and all of that, right? And it's just expensive. And of course, in my program, I talk about how you should think about you're spending $1 for each pixel, and the more it's colored. So it's an expensive element, and I don't think it's the most effective one. So, and again, no right or wrong, right? I mean, you can just judge, you can just try different things and see if something else works better. But I think there may be some opportunity here. This one seems to be showing the high level element. And again, this is not the most effective visual. It takes a lot more space. This dashboard idea comes from this idea of plain dashboards or cockpits or things like that, and it's just not considered optimal. So but that can be reconsidered. Tables, this is probably good. There's a bit of trend. The shading, I'm not 100% sure about that. Frankly, for me, the shading is maybe a little tad too complicated. Like I feel like I have to work a little bit to understand what the shading is. If the shading wasn't there, then we have all seen line and column charts, and we can kind of understand that, right? So, and again, no right or wrong. I mean, you just have to understand that because of the user's element, the user has to pause and think. So I have to think right now. I was like, oh well, what? Yeah. So if I saw a line and column, I think I would get to the answer quicker. But this is making me pause. So the column is capacity, got it. Line is number of occupant, got it. And then they seem to have this 90% cap, 90% cap. So, okay, so let me think. What does that mean? So 90% cap, I think, is based on the capacity. So that's the number of people we can have. Okay, cool. I think I'm understanding it. And of course, I mean, it's Emily's, I'm sure, the subject matter expert, and maybe the people who are seeing this, they know this stuff. So it wouldn't be a struggle. So again, you kind of judge that for yourself. But again, dashboard by design, not by accident. So you realize that I'm adding this slight level of complexity. Is that okay with my audience? Is that not? And then of course we have the table element over here. Cool. So let's and so let's talk about some of this stuff here. So let's come back here. And again, we start with high level numbers because that gives the grounding. And Tomasz talked about the same thing. There's some discussion on slicers. We'll definitely talk about that. Slicers off screen. Yep. So I think if you look at this, I would say that what are the big number levels? And now I'm noticing, and again, that's why guys, map is sometimes you have to be careful because map is coding so much information. Like think about this, all of these lines, think about pixel economy. Everything is being drawn on the screen. Imagine if you were paying $1 or $1,000 for drawing every pixel. That's a lot of money. You're spending a lot of money. What are you getting in return? So I'm not convinced we're getting a good return on investment yet. And then I just noticed this right now, even though it's so big, but I hadn't noticed it earlier. I noticed that this thing is repeated, right? And it's okay to repeat it. I'm not calling that, but just the fact that it's being hidden away in this. So again, the goal is to ground them in the high level numbers. At least that's how I like to start, right? They have an understanding. They have like, okay, cool, right? I mean, year over year, we're doing great. And then you give them more information, like who's doing great? Is it US? Is it or something like that, right? So you dive into the details. So the highest level number for me here are probably this one, assigned headcount versus seats. So I'm guessing 7426 is the seats, and 6683 is the target, I guess. And they have assigned a little bit more. I don't know if that's good or bad. That would be bad in I think. I mean, assigned headcount, and again, some of it may be me just not knowing the subject matter, right? But again, right? So I'm pretty sure this is a high level number, and of course it's repeated here as well, right? So you want to elevate that. You want to make that the star. So again, think about it, right? The dashboard. The goal is not to have like a And unfortunately, like think about where the word comes from, dashboard. It comes from this, how airplane pilots would have all these gauges. But we have taken that word too literally. We're not building, a dashboard for airline pilots. Like this is where running a business, and the data needs to be the star. So we need to elevate this, and I think it's getting lost a little bit. So I would focus on that. So the idea of what I talk about a pixel economy, and we talk about it at length inside our course, is that, right? That the pixels are invested on our star data. And by the way, filters are not that. Filters, frankly, once you set them, you want to know what are the filters or be able to check it or something, but that's not data. Those are not the stars, the heroes of your movie, right? So you want to de-emphasize them. So I will definitely think about. So I like putting my slicers here off that. Now, of course, you can use the filter pane. I like using both. If I want to make it really obvious and easy to use, I put it on the screen as slicers. And if I can, you probably have seen those, where you click a button and all the slicers pop up, but you realize that creates a distance. That is something now the users have to learn, right? So if I want to make it really easy, I just put the slicers on the side right here. If I want to be slightly fancier, I might have like, oh yeah, click this button to see the slicers, and then it pops out. And if sometimes I use a filter pane because either the user is trained or I've just run out of real estate or something like that, right? But again, de-emphasize the slicers because they're not data. So, and that would give us a space to maybe elevate some of these numbers. And again, you think about it, I mean, and sometimes you might say that, everybody in my group knows these numbers. But guys, I think you're going to maximize your impact if you create a report so that it is more accessible to more people. Somebody outside of the department can see and go, oh yeah, that's interesting, right? Somebody who's new to the department can see and understand it, right? So think about this, right? I mean, instead of this, if she spelled it out, like I struggled a little bit. I'm like, I think this is the assigned headcount, and I really only knew that because it was spelled out here, total headcount. Otherwise, I don't know. I was like, is that the sign headcount? Is that the sign headcount, right? But I knew that. And then I'm like, I'm guessing this one is the seats. And then this was like, I think it's the target. But why is it good that we have assigned more people than our target? I mean, that would be a bad thing, which should mean this should be red or pink at least or something, right? So I was struggling with the green color. You can spell it all out if you do use like simpler elements. And of course, by moving the slicer, you might have some space at the top. So elevate the data, right? I think that would help. Move the slicers. So high level data at the top, and then let's see. So first thing that I go for are breakdowns, and again, so right now the breakdowns are in this slightly expensive element. We have spent a lot of money on this. Right. So again, you should think about every pixel costs you money, $1,000. And then the more bright the pixel, right, the more you spend. So you're spending a lot more on this color because it's brighter than others. And you should, when you need to emphasize, when you need to make your data a star, you should, like, again, right. So that's okay. But again, dashboard by design, not by accident. As long as it's intentional, I'm okay. All right. So I think that this is showing breakdowns, but I think it could perhaps be done differently. So again, just experiment with different elements. Maybe this is just a table or a matrix element. Maybe it's as simple as that, or maybe it's a few bar charts or column charts, something like that. And again, you can kind of experiment with that, see how that works, just explore different things. I think we can improve there. So that's going to give us our high level numbers. And these I feel are important breakdowns. Like, so I see this is overall, but hey, this is how it is in EMEA. This is how it is in America. This is how it is in Asia Pacific, right? So I have that breakdown. And then this, by the way, is detail, right? So, high level numbers, let's go back to our example here. High level numbers, breakdown and trends, and then a little bit of detail. And I think that the detail is really well balanced here. I think kudos to Emily on that. Like, it's not overwhelming. And it's not in a high priority position. Like some people like start with the detail right up top. And I'm like, no, give them the high level first. Great. So Leah is asking, what is the difference between slicers and filters? So slicers are things you see on screen. And if this was interactive, I would click on this and change it to September 2020 or something like that. Filter pane is this pane off to the side. And you can, it works the same way. It lets you change the value. It's less intuitive and it's actually less discoverable, and it may be slightly less intuitive, right? So let me just add a slicer element, right? So the plain slicer element is, sorry guys, I know we're taking a small tangent here, but this is important. Where are the slicers? Yeah, there we go. So think about this, right? I mean, think about, let's try this guy. If you just put the slicer, and again, guys, pay attention to the detail here, right? So even by making it a drop down, you're making the user work just a little bit harder. And again, it may be okay, but is that intentional? If you show all the options in here, and frankly, if they fit on one screen, which let me try to do that. Like, if there's no scroll bar, if it just shows up like this, this is both very intuitive and discoverable. Those are two key words you're looking for in your visualization. If your dashboard is both intuitive, is both discoverable, like they can find elements and they can see, and yep, right. So it's discoverable, and once they discover it, they can know how to use it. Like, this one is definitely discoverable, and yeah, I think a kid would know how to use this, right? So as opposed to the filter pane, which is less discoverable, you usually have to expand this pane, and frankly, I think the layout compared to this, it's slightly confusing, so it's less intuitive. So again, I'm not saying right or wrong. You be the judge. But create a dashboard by design. Make those decisions, be conscious. Think about the audience, think about the level they're at. And the joke that we have is the higher up in the management you go, you need to dumb down the dashboard and make it easier to use, right? So if you're working with senior management, make it plain vanilla simple, right? And if you're working with like, I don't know, like, kind of the, yeah, the lower down the food chain, right? I mean, yeah, yeah, you can have more complicated elements, but for management, definitely dumb it down. All right, cool. So I think we've talked about a few things here. We've talked about the slices and the filters. We've talked about elevating the data. We've talked about the breakdown. I do like the trends, and again, I stumbled a little bit on the shaded area, but again, if the audience understands that, then that's great. So we have breakdowns covered, we have trends covered, and we have the detail. And of course, Power BI has this awesomeness where people can kind of click on America and then they'll see only detail for America, or they can click on Asia Pacific, only see details for that. That's awesome. So there's a really good balance, by the way, you guys. You guys are feeling that, hopefully, right? I mean, yeah, the dashboard kind of does everything. So really, if you give them the high level and you give them this breakdown and trends and detail, it lets the user do unbelievable amount of kind of analysis here, right? Because again, the interactivity is built in. They can click on US and say, oh, cool, I want to dive in here. And of course, if there's drill down, that sort of stuff, right? So I think the balance of elements is just perfect here. I love that. So let me try to understand some of these other elements. I'll say, I think this is the high level information. Maybe I'm not sure if this is high level or this is detail. Maybe a bit of both. I think this is a fair. This is good stuff. If possible, and again, I'm not the subject matter expert in this, but sometimes, if with the numbers you can show that is this good or bad, or is it trending, so you can experiment if it applies. And I don't even know if it applies, right? But let's say if this, like, I don't know, like, let's take hotel count, like, I'm just making it up, right? I mean, so is this, what about this unassigned hoteling ratio, right? To this ratio, right? So imagine if you could put a small dot in here. If this was red, like this was not good, we could put a small red dot here. That's one option. Oops, that wasn't a red dot, but yeah, imagine a red dot or a pink dot or something like that, right? And let's say, oh yeah, this number needs attention. And if possible, I don't know, maybe we could do a trend as well, and like a small graph there. So yeah, and frankly, at this point, I don't remember if that's possible with the built-in elements, or you need like custom visuals or something. But yeah, those are some ideas. So if you can give them some indication that, yeah, you're showing the number, but it's like, if you can accommodate, it's like, yeah, is this number good or bad? Is it trending up or trending down? That gives them a little more meat on the dashboard. So if it applies, consider that. All right. Hey, great stuff here. So again, guys, I mean, for one, kudos to Emily for kind of stepping up and sharing this, and doing a great job. I think it's a great start, and but she can take it to the next level. Let's see what Vivek is saying. Vivek, yeah, we'll see. I know you sent your dashboard, but you were a little sensitive about sharing, so we'll see if we can do that. So Vivek is asking if a dashboard is primarily based on a single metric. I do love those, by the way. In this case, it looks like, oh, okay, got it. So he's saying, yep, a single metric, then you can show, kind of overview, breakdown, trends, and so forth. That's a good point. So that's a fair point. So often what I do is that I start with a high-level overview with the key numbers that I care about. Also have a sales versus budget version of this. So yeah, that one is focused on comparing sales versus budget. This one is year-over-year. And then you can go in more details and so forth. So what he's saying is that this has multiple metrics. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like so of course, in the course right now, we have focused on visualization principles, and I go into a lot of detail there. But of course, there's so much to visualization. And Grace Teo, who's one of our members in our Power BI consultant program, I've been actually encouraging her to create a course, because I've seen her teach visualization, and she's phenomenal. She was a speaker in our last year's conference, and she was the highest rated speaker, and her session was really entertaining. If anybody here did attend that, you know what I'm talking about. It was unbelievable. So we might partner up and with Grace creating content which goes deeper into. So again, the course right now focuses on visualization principles, which is important, but it's like, well, but what's the starting point? And of course, the starting point could be a thing like, what do I want this dashboard, this page of my report to do? What purpose do I want it to serve? Whoa, now that gets really interesting. And I think that's what Vivek is kind of hinting at, that, yeah, I mean, if we say, what do we want them to understand from this, right? And so yeah, and right, and so that's always a good way to approach things. So we do have Sunny's asking if you have a community. We do have a Facebook community. We have a pretty kick-ass community. And of course, we do our live events. That's so if you go, so the way our Learn Power BI community kind of hangs out is we have our Facebook group, and then we do a lot of events. Some are open, like this one, Talk Power BI. If it says Talk Power BI, it's open to everybody. But then we have Learn Power BI specific elements as well, like this one, new member meetup. This one, this is the Power BI Q&A. We do a career Q&A. That one is open to everybody, but the Power BI Q&A right now is only for Learn Power BI members. So yeah, and you can get here by just going to talkpowerbi.com. So that's our live events. So our Facebook group and live events, that's where we kind of hang out. Great. Yep, Robert answered that as well. Awesome, great. So let me see if I can, oops, didn't want to do that. So let's go back here and let's see if we have other elements. So she has done a little bit of that, which is the idea of using a template of the similar pattern for all of your pages as much as you can, right? So you would have page one, which would be like sales versus prior year, and then you would create sales versus budget, and you wouldn't start from scratch. You would use the existing layout that you've used on that, right? So that makes it easier for users to consume. So of course, the elements that you see in here are the slicers are always at the top. Now she changes the layout a little bit, but again, I think if this was a little more thought out, then for one, the prime real estate at the top, we could always give it to the high level numbers. So they would go to screen 2. And here, my guess would be that the important numbers are right here. And again, if you think about this, it's kind of an awkward position. So again, if you think about the value of the screen real estate, right? I mean, this stuff is man, this stuff is expensive, right? So this stuff is like really expensive. And this stuff is like not that expensive. You know, it's pretty cheap, right? I mean, yeah, that's a low priority. So you want to give the prime real estate to your most important data. Let the data be the superstar. And right now, it just feels like an awkward position. So imagine a template. If she removed the slicer, I think that would give her the ability to always start with a high level number. So this guy, this thing, this one can be elevated there. High level numbers, breakdown trends, detail, right? And let's see for this one. This one seems like a detail, and that's okay. I mean, you don't have to follow. So again, I'm not saying like the rule that I said that, high level numbers at the top, but no, I mean, if it doesn't apply for a page like this one, it's just, yeah, I mean, I don't think it applies, then it doesn't apply, right? So again, as long as you're creating a dashboard by design, be thinking about it, I'm okay with that, right? So you can break all of my rules, follow none of them, as long as you think through it and you understand the underlying visualization principles and so forth. Thank you, Sean. Abraham has a question on MySQL. Hey, Abraham, I might have to come back to that. We're focusing right now on kind of dashboard Makeover design. Maybe somebody else can help you on the chat. So cool. So guys, so again, kudos to Emily for building an awesome dashboard. I have no doubt this is being received really well, but hopefully this gave you some ideas to kind of elevate it to the next level. This is good stuff. Let's take a quick peek at the COVID-19 dashboard. So I think this one is evaluating the overall status, like what's going on in the world. Let's just take a quick look at it. So, of course, you notice it right away, right, guys? I mean, look at that, the high level numbers, like, so, yeah, that's just, I mean, I love it. I'm always going to love it. Now, what I would say is that, so we talked about pixel economy, where you're spending for every single pixel. and you pay more for brighter colors. And again, as long as thoughtful, I do feel that I think the modern aesthetics is a little bit of muted colors. Like if you just see the Microsoft logo change and other changes, like, I mean, you know, it's just goes a little bit softer. It's not like that garish. And in general, if you see Microsoft layouts and so forth, and just the website design, it's you know, it's like a little more toned down, and rather than loud stuff. So all right. So so here again, some minor feedback, but maybe these colors, if you toned it down just a little bit, they would still serve their purpose, low, moderate, high, but they would cost us less in screen real estate. And what does that mean? Well, what that means is that this one really grabs their attention. But so do we need to grab their attention that much? I'm not sure. And one argument that Stephen Few makes in his book Information Dashboard Design, which is right, is that stuff that doesn't need attention, like he says that you don't need to have like a green marker. Something is green, that doesn't need attention. So you can remove that, save on pixels, and just mark the red ones. And what that does is it helps elevate the stuff that does need attention. Now, again, I may be reading this wrong. I mean, maybe in this dashboard, red isn't like for attention. It just indicates a phase, and then that's okay. But yeah, so certainly love kind of high level numbers being on top. And again, the slicers, if all Emily would change is that move the slicer to the side, because they're not data, they're not the stars, but we can have them on the screen, but you know, yeah, not in the most important location, right? You know, so yeah, that would just be a minor change. So again, total size, and again, I do feel like the colors can be just toned down a little bit. A little bit goes a long way in dashboard design, right? So yeah, I mean, if you just color it a little bit, we're smart. We're visually really smart. So think about it, right? I mean, our eyes are like what we see. It's a dominant sense, isn't it? Like dominant sense by far. I mean, think about, you know, smell, touch, and so forth stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's a dominant sense. So yeah, just a little bit goes a long way, because that's all we need. The map in this case, I feel, is an effective visual. I feel, yeah, it just gives them a layout, and so I think it's working. I think it's appropriate here. I would imagine, yeah, these are the sites, and of course, this would, I'm assuming, let them cross filter, like they can click on low. And just focus on the low sites, and of course the detail there. So required. I like this one. I mean, I think this is simple and so forth. And again, maybe some of the tweaks. So yeah, this is pretty cool. All right, so guys, again, big thanks to Emily, and kudos, congratulations, stepping up. So guys, so Emily, hopefully this is just a starting point for you, right? So again, the more you do good work and keep telling great stories about it, the more powerful you become. And of course, the analogy that I use is my own, which is for most of my 15 plus career in corporate America, the number of people who knew about my good work was either 1 or 0. Like, I mean, sometimes my boss knew about my good work and he would go to bat for me, asking for a promotion or a raise or something like that for bonus. But sometimes I had a manager who didn't care, or I got a new manager and then the number dropped to 0. Like, nobody knew about my good work, right? Nobody could speak for me. But then my life changed as the number changed from 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000. And you don't have to go all the way, but your life is going to change as soon as. So where I started was I just started sharing more of my story within our team in Microsoft. I was so excited about Power BI. I'm like, hey, I would do brown bags, and I would sit down with people. I would just have water cooler conversations. And I'm like, yeah, man, I would love to sit down and show you Power BI. And we would just talk, sit down, share. What I was doing was, without realizing then, I was telling my story and I was getting the practice of it, right? So it went from like 0 to 1 person knowing about my good work to 10, 100,000. And the more you go on the path, the more powerful you become. So guys, yeah, go for it. Cool. So let's see if we can switch gears and do the next one. Vivek is the next person who had sent his dash. Oh, actually, so Vivek had sent in, but Vivek was a little concerned about sharing it publicly. We didn't have Praveen. Praveen, if you're still online, just put in a hello again. And Praveen has an interesting dashboard. It's Olympic analysis. Great. Love what Lakshita is saying. But yeah, guys, I mean, hopefully this becomes inspiration for you all. You know, sometimes we compare ourselves with others. By the way, the dashboard is loading. And you can form two thoughts. One, you can say, yeah, but, right? And you can say something about them or you. It's like, yeah, but they have this going, you know, yeah. Or you can say something about yourself, like, oh yeah, but I'm an introvert or something. Guys, none of that matters. You know, I'm an introvert. Most people now don't believe it, but yeah, being an introvert has nothing to do with being out there, speaking publicly, any of that. Those are learned skills. Anybody can learn that. I argue that introverts can do it better than extroverts because we are great listeners. So we can incorporate that into the way we put ourselves out there. Cool. So yeah. So don't compare and go, yeah, but instead compare, but say, hey, yeah, that's what's possible. I'm not doing that. They're doing that, but that means I can do it too. I can find a way. Maybe not the way they're doing it, but you can find your own way. But yeah. All right. Cool. So this is from Praveen Kumar, and love it. So let's go through our same steps. Kind of first impression. So a first impression, I'm just looking for, like, sometimes you look at the dashboard and it looks a little bit like a nightmare. And again, I see some of them with like a lot of color and bling, right? Yeah, a lot of bling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's horrible, right? So and I've even seen people feature that on their resume and so forth. So guys, I'm not saying if your employer, prospective employer, or anybody's going to hire you as a consultant or something, if they know a little bit about visualization and you put like a really blingy dashboard on there, you have struck out, right? I mean, I wouldn't even consider it, because I would think that, man, this person knows nothing about good visualization, right? I mean, they just so I see that, and that's the first impression step. And so sometimes I'm like, first impression, it's like gone, like I'm not interested in this, right? So first impression, this one, nice and clean, love it. What is the first focus? So this is, of course, the squint test. So I'm going to kind of like half close my eyes, and yeah, I would say it's well done. So I think the focus is here. Although I will say that the colors here are a little bit too bright, and they are somewhat distracting. Like my eye keeps being pulled towards that. Maybe using a softer color palette would still work. It would still let them consume these elements, but wouldn't draw the attention that much. Or maybe so you notice here that the text here is like the same shade as this, just a little brighter, and it is working. But if you are going to stay with this color palette, this bright color palette, then maybe make this contrast a little bit more. Maybe change these to just black. That might stand out more. But overall, the first focus, I think it's working. It's at the high level numbers up here. Yeah, so forth. So let's talk about the flow. So flow, I think, feels great. High level numbers up top. There's breakdown. Well, this one is another element. I'll come back to that. This is breakdown. Yeah, I'm not sure this graph is working. And there's a little bit of detail, which is awesome, right? So very balanced. I think the flow, certainly you start here, and then I think the way it's laid out, that I would go here, and then this is a bit of a question mark. Like, where does the user go from here? Do you want them to jump over here, or do you want them to scan this, and then come here? And we were talking about how the default rescan is this way, right? That's the default, because that's the way we read. But you can control that. And you can control that by the most powerful element, which is white space. So if Praveen wanted them to go here and stop, and then go down and then consume this, what you could do is just create a little more white space here. You could try that. If that doesn't work, try a thin light line here. If even that doesn't work, and it should, then you can try more drastic measures, which is spend more money of maybe enclosing this in a box and filling this in the color. And again, this is all coming from core visualization principles, which we cover in detail in the course. But yeah, you have those are the tricks of the trade, right? I mean, you can use those elements, and there are more that we talk about, right? But yeah, so again, dashboard by design. So if he wanted to be able to stop here and then scan here, then just try one of those things. Otherwise, I feel like these elements are close enough that once I'm scanning this way, I feel like going over here. Now it does feel a little weird because this element is clearly, I mean, it's taking up the space of both of these. So I think the flow, maybe that's the only hiccup in the flow. Otherwise, it feels good. So let's talk about the next one, which is selection of elements on my checklist. And here, let's go focus on these ones. So again, guys, this one, very airline dashboardy feel, right? And it comes from that, like obviously airplane cockpits have these gauges all over, but again, I think we took that too literally. Yeah, this is meant for business. So these are just not efficient, right? So what is an efficient visualization? Efficient visualization is which communicates the data that we want to communicate, the important stuff to the user, right? Does it with clarity, and does it with the least number of pixels possible. Basically, it can be compact, right? So so bar chart, column charts are great examples, right? I mean, if you put that stuff on a map, it's spending a lot of money, but bar charts are very effective. So these ones, and of course, the same reason, pie charts, donut charts, and all its siblings or whatever, they're just not very effective. So we can reconsider that. I think we can maybe use a bullet chart or something like that, which would take less space, more compact, and maybe give us more room for other stuff, or just simple text elements. So again, no right or wrong. It's dashboard by design. So you experiment, you understand the design visualization, core visualization principles, and you then try different things and see that, oh yeah, this works and this works and so forth. So I would reconsider this one. And I really think that this one isn't working. For one, I'm confused, like, is this a trend or is it a breakdown? And it's trying to do both. So it's trying to do too much. Maybe. So again, this one is tricky because for one challenge here is that the US just dominates everything. So imagine we change this to a line chart, then everybody else is going to be down at the bottom, right? And US is going to be somewhere really high. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. So Juan is saying is that, what is this? Yeah, so the blue line for me is typically a target, and I have, oh boy, yeah, I don't. So I really think that's not a good use. So usually a line like this is used for a target, and I think he's just using it to show a different number kind of athletes. Yep. Yeah. So Sean is saying it's apples and oranges. Yeah, it seems like that. It's trying to do too much. So yeah, so I think this graph is doing double duty and this graph is doing double duty. And I think we can simplify it. And again, I mean, so think about the space, think about how much space it's taking to show these elements. And these are pretty big text, right? But 2 elements we show in that much space. Now, if you think about it, this is taking a lot more space than that. And so, yeah, I mean, I would start there. I was like, maybe we can just show it as a text element. Doesn't have to be that big. But yeah, total medals, 9529, just the number, and count of athletes, 8613. Cool. Good point. Hey, guys, good eyes. Ribbon chart. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about ribbon charts. And ribbon charts, I think, would have the same problem. The United States would just dominate everything. I want to hear from you guys. What do you do when you have something like this? And of course, we have an example in this year. Like, bikes just dominates the heck out of everything. Like, the bikes is so big. It just, let's change this up. Let's have some fun here. So let's go in here, and I'm going to remove sales prior year, and I'm going to do what I was saying. So if we do sales, no. I want to break it down by product category. Let's see how this works. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about, right? So where you have bikes is so dominant, it's and then the other thing just flat lines as if they're dead, right? I mean, think about the heart rate monitor. So yeah, so well, I really think that if we were gonna do it, maybe only thing I think of is that we separate it into separate graphs, show United States separately, and show them separately. Now, of course, you don't have this problem in a table. So if table works in a setting, then, then table, you just see the numbers, right? I mean, if one number is like really large, so if this was 954 and this was like $1, the 1 million doesn't overpower $1, like visually at least, right? I mean, yeah, it just shows both numbers. So maybe I think there is room for experimentation here. So again, I don't know what the answer is, but the ideas would be, for one, actually, we have this, let's try it. So if we change this guy to a line chart, I bet it's going to look okay. So I'm going to change the year to be the axis and country to be the legend. Let's see how that looks. Oh, actually, US. Yeah, this is a hot mess. I don't know. Okay. I'll that should be a fun one. Sort by total medals would help. I think I might have the answer. I might have the answer. And again, it might not work just for this one, but it's a technique I use quite often, where one thing is, not one thing, but a few things at the top are dominant. Then what I do is I show top 5 and other, right? So right now we have so many lines because it's showing every country, every single country. Yeah. So yeah. So boy, and I really don't like the year as legend. I don't think that reads well. So yeah, I would try like top 5 countries and just bucketing everybody else in other. Top 5 and low 5. Yep. Mark one. Yep. Yeah. You can do 2 graphs, top 5 and low 5. Yeah. Or top 5 other. Yeah. So room for having some fun there. And the details are kind of spot on, as I said earlier. Cool. So yeah, but I think overall kind of well designed. Now there is some debate in my head sometimes about the title, because sometimes, and even in my dashboard, so again, this is prime real estate. This is the most expensive real estate there is. Like, this is the Manhattan of New York, right? So top left, because we start scanning there. And do we use that for a title, which technically isn't data? It's, so I was saying earlier, data should be the superstar. Isn't, so Raf is saying, do you read the comments? Well, I try to. Yeah, Robert is here as well, and he can help me if I miss something. Great. Emily saying, I did this challenge. I did top 10 countries and athletes by season. Cool. Interesting. All right. So good discussion there. Let's see if you want to change gears. Maybe we'll do, how are we doing in time? We're an hour. Now, of course, these calls sometimes go longer. Let's do one more for fun, and we'll call it good. But guys, before we do the next one, I just wanted to call out a lot of exciting stuff is happening. We have our PowerBI conference, global virtual conference, coming up October 20 and 21. You would start seeing social posts, email invites, and all of that pretty soon. But for now, hey, I would say block those dates on your calendar. It's going to be an awesome event. And we're really excited about it. We're running it in a new way. Our goal for this conference is to make it a dialogue, not a monologue. Conferences, it always felt weird to me, like they were so one directional. right? I mean, you go in there and you get a lot of stuff from speakers. But the thing is that there's a lot of experience and wisdom in the audience as well. What if it was not so one directional? What if you're right? I mean, what if we could bring the audience in as well? So that's what our goal is going to be. We have a few different ideas. We're going to try it, and you can be the judge how it works. But we're excited about that. So that's the Power BI conference. And of course, we keep doing our events and so forth. So yeah, so stay tuned for that. Cool. All right. So Raf is saying you can use zoom function on the graph. I'm not sure I know that one. So I know this focus mode, but I'm not sure what is zoom. So earlier we were talking about discoverable and intuitive. Well, if there is a zoom feature here, it's not discoverable, not to me at least. Like, I don't know how to zoom, you know, and yeah. So yeah. All right, cool. All right, Talia, thank you so much. All right, cool. So let's do our last one. Oh, and of course, one thing I'll say is that I'll definitely invite you to or join our Learn Power BI program. Is not for everybody. And this kind of lays out what we believe in. We believe in focus on the core concepts. We believe that if we push those to you, then it becomes so much easier for you to pull the other stuff and learn from it. Without the core concepts, learning becomes like trying to piece together a jigsaw puzzle with the help of Google and YouTube. And anybody who's done that knows that it's can be frustrating. And we do focus on, we want our students to be doing stuff, right? And apply those principles to do things for their own and tell the story. And we do believe in community, and we're trying everything through the live events, through our Facebook community to kind of bring that together. We did a new member meetup. We're going to do a new member 30-day challenge. The timeline for that has moved. Earlier, we actually wanted to do it in September, but I was traveling to India, and then we had to focus on the conference. So that's happening later, but that should be exciting. So yeah, go on our website, learnpowerbi.com, check out the training option. All right, so this is the last one. Bring it home. This is from one of our Learn Power BI members, Matthias Friedmann. He has actually been featured on this show quite a bit. So he's been really good at doing good work, but telling great stories, sharing his work, and sharing that on his dashboard. And his dashboards are always kind of brilliant. Now, of course, I'll ignore this part. I think that's just because he's submitting it in a public forum, so he wants to be identified. I don't think he would really build his dashboards this way. So ignore that part. So let's go through the first impression. Again, first impression, it looks good. It's not that garish, blingy dashboard. Let's do the first focus. Yeah, I think this one, I think for this one needs to stand out just a little bit more. So maybe use a different color, or again, if we change the palette to something lighter, just a lighter shade of blue, it will help this thing shine a little bit more. So I think the first focus is slightly off. My eyes aren't being drawn to it. In fact, my eyes are kind of being drawn more to this guy, which is an important position, and it has a lot of color, right? He's spent a lot of money. He's poured in a lot of money coloring these pixels, and well, that's making them the first focus for me, at least. So, and I think that feels not what he intended. Let's talk about the flow. So as we started high level numbers at the top, that's awesome. Then we have some breakdowns. Is it trend? Yes, it is trends up, down here. And yeah, I would say this is breakdown as well. And it doesn't have like a table detail. And again, that's okay. You don't have to have it. So that's that. Selection of elements he has stuck to. So most of the dashboards that I build only have the core elements, which are the text-based elements, which are like cards and tables and matrix. So text-based elements, bar chart, column charts, line chart. That's it. That's my bread and butter. Right? And then anything else better be by design, not by accident. Right. So I wouldn't throw in a map or a donut chart, God forbid, because I think it looks prettier meant to make it more interesting. No, I would think about it. It's like, yep, I'm using a map because of this. I'm using a ribbon chart because of this, right? So otherwise, stick to the basic elements. That is good visualization design, not blinging it up and so forth, right? All right, cool. So so flow, we were talking about the flow. So flow, yeah, I think this flows from here This seems to flow here just because, and why is that? Why does it flow seamlessly this way? Because of, I think, of this white space, which is brilliantly used. Again, white space is one of the most powerful elements in dashboard design. So yeah, he just distances just by using white space. He doesn't have to use a box. He doesn't have to use a fill-in box with color and shadow and all of that stuff, right? He doesn't have to spend all that money because he can do that for so little just by doing some white space here. So I think the flow is just brilliant because of the white space, and it just kind of flows from here. Cool. There's a little bit of a disconnect for me though, because these elements look similar, right? I'm actually now reconsidering what I said about flow. Is like, I'm not sure what is the expected flow. Maybe these elements are together and these are together and these. If that's the case, I don't know, then we need something different. Then maybe we need a little more white space here. And again, you can just do white space. You can do a thin light line, or if even that doesn't work, then you do a box. And even that doesn't work, you can fill in the box. But again, I mean, those are extreme measures, right? I mean, I would just try with white space. So the flow, I don't know what his intent was, like what he wanted users to follow. So the flow, yeah. So if you wanted this to be together, then I think this needs a little bit of white space here. Okay, cool. Selection of elements. Yep, I would say, yep, he's sticking to the basic elements there. Pixel economy, I think generally it's really good. Again, the color palette maybe can be softer for this, the blue. But yeah, it's okay. Aesthetics looks good. Things look balanced. Now, I did have one feedback for this. So I want you guys to help me out. So watch what's happening here. That's a very well-structured dashboard, very thought out, right? So what this is, and it's so intuitive, right? I mean, so these are 2022 numbers, and just by putting this graph close to this, right? So again, lack of white space in this case. White space, having it be there or having it not be there, is one of the most powerful elements. Just by putting it closer to it and not having white space, we know that these are linked. These are 2022 numbers, and these are 2026, and this is the difference. That works brilliantly. It's just, yeah, just really, really well done. But my problem is with the sort. And I think right now it's sorted descending, which generally is a fair way. But I think imagine if this was, instead of sorting descending, if it was sorted alphabetical, so that Gleason, right now, Gleason appears here, and then in the third spot, and then in this spot. But imagine if Gleason was always at the top, then you could follow that so much more easily, wouldn't you? I think that would be a better sort, right? And that would, and I think it would still work. Like, even if you alphabetically sorted it, you could see that Gleason is at the top in 2022, right? But then you could follow it along and follow its story. Oh boy, man, I think that would take this to a whole new level. Just that simple minor change. And again, who knows? Maybe it's not going to work. Maybe, all right. So you can try sorting it alphabetically and just see how it works. Ask a few other users, but I think that could be a promising idea. Cool. So there's some other stuff here. He has the slices well buried, maybe too much buried. Like, I don't know, maybe this is it almost feels like he doesn't want the users to use this. I mean, yeah, this is like this is like the area where you grow mushrooms, right? This is the, least valuable real estate. And yeah, it's like, in the dark here. I don't know, maybe. So generally slicers are not data. So you want your data to shine, but maybe this can be just, I mean, there is space here. So he can at least make him wider and so forth, right? So, all right. So type plant. All right. Good stuff, guys. So hey, thank you so much for joining. If I may ask you guys, we talked about so much today, and I would love to hear from you guys that what was your biggest takeaway? what is one thing that you heard which you would like to stay with you? Now, here's the funny thing, guys. By actually sharing this, by sharing this, you're going to make it more permanent. Because otherwise, you've heard a lot of things and you're like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, and who knows how much you're going to remember tomorrow. But by sharing today here, it's like, yeah, this was important for me. I mean, I don't know, like pixel economy or white space or whatever. I said so much stuff here today. So I want to hear from you. What was that one bit that felt important to you that you would like to hold on to? So David said earlier, like, thanks for pointing out the sort order like that. Ramon is saying using white space to separate. Tammy, high level. Yep. High, doing low, simple. Oh, yes. So good. Yep. Keep it simple. People are like, oh, bling it up, Yeah. Sean is saying using the most effective, simplest visual to do the job. Yep. Function is beauty, guys, right? Oh, God. I mean, IKEA is a great example. White space, Suzanne is saying, Benjamin is saying the clarity and the flow of data, Leah saying white space. Oh, white space is like, oh, yeah, I'm a huge fan. You can't get me to stop talking about white space. It's funny, right? I mean, visualization, you think it's all about these charts. I'm like, oh boy, white space. Emily's saying top level numbers, always keep the audience in mind. Yeah. So folks, the funny thing is that last part that Emily is saying, to keep the audience in mind, there's so much we can explore there. And again, Grace Teo, I mean, when she does do a course, she teaches live courses. She teaches all of this stuff, but she teaches in live courses, which I think, well, my course, right? I mean, my course is all completely recorded and you can consume it 24/7. I think that's easier. That makes it more accessible to a lot of people, a lot more affordable as well. I mean, live training can be quite expensive. And of course, you can still have live elements like these live calls where we get together and discuss the course material and go deeper. So I think I'm hoping that with Grace's help, we delve into that area. It's like, how do you design for the audience? And how do you start with that question? It's like, hey, I want this one to tell this story. And then how do you go from there? And that's its whole other journey, which we want to bring that to our Learn Power BI members with the help of Grace. Bob is saying white space was interesting. I typically use borders, but yeah, so all that great. Details for the user to read through. Knowing that visualization is done from the point of view of an audience. Great. Thank you, folks. Thank you so much. And yeah, I will see you definitely in one of our upcoming events. So again, you can just go to talkpowerbi.com to always stay in tune with our events. One that is not on this page, which we do want to add, is the Power BI conference, which is happening October 20 and 21. All right, guys, take care and power on.